What we can say is that The Death and Life of Great American Cities is probably the most important book written about cities in the 20th century. She was writing about what made a neighborhood interesting and safe. And that was in complete contradiction to what planners were saying.
Some things are said so often that nobody thinks of what they mean anymore. For instance, for years we've been hearing, take the children off the streets. Off the streets and into where?
They wanted to have wide boulevards for cars. They wanted grass around all the houses. They wanted to separate uses. Jane Jacobs says, no, it may not look good to your aesthetic sensibilities, but this jumble of older buildings actually yields remarkable results.
Suppose we actually let the sidewalks do the job that they can do best. And suppose we stop trying to provide poor substitutes for them.
You know, in the 50s, there was a very widely felt belief that the city was a mess and that the only thing to do was just clean it up, clear it away, and start over again. Start all over again with stark towers and open space, thinking that would all be better for people.
A comparison of yesterday and today makes plain the modern miracle in housing that has taken place. Here in the Gas House area, we are on a street that today is just a memory, transformed by modern construction magic. What was once a run-down, dying section of the great city of New York has been recreated. And today, this section is a beautiful, park-like community.
Well, in fact, it generally was not better for people. Most of the time, it didn't work. And Jane Jacobs saw the evidence that it didn't work and pulled it together into this extraordinary book, which changed the way the world saw all this. It's this wonderful, complex web of things that makes the city what it is. This ocean, this organic sea of different things mixed together that Jacobs felt the beginning of every morning when she walked out of her own door at 555 Hudson Street.
Jane Jacobs was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, does not go to college, comes to New York when she's only 18 years old, really makes a living as a secretary, as an assistant. Then she goes to work for the Architectural Forum in the 1950s, in which case she begins to look at the way cities work.
I heard from somebody, I forget who it was, that she was writing a book. When you say I edited that book, there wasn't very much to edit it. It was in pretty much exactly that manuscript that went into print. I knew that book was going to be around forever and change things, not immediately, but over time. You can always tell.
The Death and Life of Great American Cities is common wisdom today. 45 years ago, it was not. 45 years ago, all these very simple, logical, natural ideas were actually radical thinking.
Robert Moses was the greatest builder America has ever seen. Robert Moses was this immensely powerful public official who built more roads than anybody in American history. He built Lincoln Center, he built the 1939 and 1964 World's Fairs, he built all the bridges. He just built. And almost nobody could stop Robert Moses. Well, Jane Jacobs, this woman without a portfolio, without credentials, said, by golly, I'll take on Robert Moses. And you know what? There is no such thing as a Lower Manhattan Expressway.
The insane idea was to build a 6-lane expressway from the Holland Tunnel from New Jersey to the Manhattan Bridge over there to Long Island and cut Manhattan in half at the waist, from which it would never have recovered. And when, after 12 years, the neighborhood was successful in stopping it, they planted a little tree, and now it's a medium-sized tree. Not a very beautiful tree, but that's what it stands for. The survival of a great neighborhood, thanks to Jane.
When the fight was going on about a football stadium for the Jets on the west side of Manhattan, I was amazed to see that the people promoting it were talking about how it would also have, tucked into the bottom, lots of little shops and bars and restaurants, and would promote the vibrant street life of New York. Well, what better indication of how Jane Jacobs has entered the mainstream than to see people think that they can sell a huge stadium project by claiming it is somehow consistent with Jane Jacobs' ideas.
Did Jane Jacobs lose or win? Well, you know, she probably would say she lost in the sense that we still have a country that's pretty much built around ideas that she despises. On the other hand, wouldn't any of us be thrilled to think that we had the influence that she did, that we changed the thought of millions of people? So I would have to say that Jane Jacobs certainly was a winner more than most of us are ever winners.